Justin, the decision to bring Sam in for Tabs pretty straightforward?
They're never straightforward. We've played two talls down forward sometimes. We played three this year, so that we had a bit of a debate about that. But we feel Sam's in our best 22. He's really important to the way we play, and that was where we landed in the end.
How much have you missed him in that forward line since he's gone out?
It's hard to tell, but we miss his pressure and we miss his team first attitude at times. Everything he does is for the team, and we probably miss his leadership at times as well. Not saying we haven't got good leadership in our forward line, but he adds to it. So a lot of the things that Sam brings to the team aren't measured in stats. They're measured in some of the things that don't get measured. We measure him internally by some of the things that don't get measured externally. So he's a really important player to us, and it's good to have him back.
You brought a few back through the waffle this year. Obviously, Peel had the bye last week. Was that a possibility for him? Was he ready to go, or was it?
Yeah, it's always a possibility, but we feel like he's done enough work. He came through the coach's office last week and started campaigning like they do, and they get close to a return. So that said to me, he was ready to go last week mentally. So we got an extra week into him, and see how he goes tomorrow night.
Could be David Mundy's last home game. JK had an amazing send-off. Are you hoping it's similar for him?
Yeah, hoping for 8. Of course. We want to make sure we send him out in the right way. We want to make sure, he's a bit like JK last week. We understand the significance of Dave's career at our club, and he deserves to get sent out in the right way.
He's a pretty low-key character. Dave didn't like talking about his retirement last week, and obviously he could still have a home game hopefully coming up. Is it kind of David's wish that he does celebrate it now and doesn't do it in the finals potentially as well?
You know the character. He probably just wants his career to finish and him to walk out the back door. Like he doesn't like the glitz and glamour of AFL footy, and he's gone about his business over a number of years in a really resilient, humble, low-profile way. So, so that's probably the way he'd prefer it. But we also understand the significance, and you only get one opportunity to send your champions out. So we want to make sure it's done the right way, both as a club and both with our performance.
Adam, bringing Josh Robin back in, will he resume his ruck forward role in the absence of Jacko?
We'll work through that. We've got Dixon in the side as well, so that he might help out there as well. But there'll be a few guys playing in some different positions as we've been doing for the last few weeks. So Roth probably had 3 games at waffle level doing it. Did it again on the weekend with mixed results. So just bring something a little bit different in that situation. So we'll see how we go.
And Nick has had a bit of a quiet week. Looks like he's obviously been pushing through a lot of soreness. How's he travelling for this weekend?
He's normal week, 6-day break, so we haven't done a lot. So he's in good spirits. He's in good shape, so he's ready to go. There's nothing wrong with Nick.
And how's he looking for next year for going around again? Have you had that conversation with Nick yet?
It's more than likely going to work that way. So we'll get through the end of the season and we'll work it out properly. We've got a few guys in that boat going through the back end of their career and what we do from a list point of view, and what they want to do as well. So hopefully he finishes off the year well, and we have a good look at the pre-season.
And it also sounds like Willie may be close to signing on and staying at the club. Do you have an update on where Willie's at the moment?
No, I don't. But I don't think we're ever really too worried about that. He's been dealing with a fair bit the last 5 weeks, so we've respected Willie's situation. Hopefully we get him back next week for Geelong, which is great, because it could have easily stayed up north for an extra week with the family. So I think he's going to sacrifice a bit of that to come down and help us finish out the year.
And Simone, the ruck battle, can you talk about obviously the 2 main guys and then the pretty unorthodox backups for each side, just Logan?
Gee, Griff won't like you calling him backup.
I think Rotham would happily accept that. We're just trying some different things. Bailey Williams has been, he's held up his end for this year. He's had a long season, and mainly as the main ruck. And then Nick coming back, we're thinking Bailey as a forward probably hasn't given us as much as we would have liked the last couple of weeks. So we're just trying some different things with these other guys. So Yeah, it's. I mean, most teams have a second ruck that's not, not a full-time ruck type. So lots of teams explored running second rucks, and looks like both of us can do that this week.
And JL, for you, it's been amazing for Griff. This year's done pretty much everything. Can you talk about his journey and what you've seen from him this year?
Well, I think he's really matured as a player. And that's allowed him to feel really comfortable down back. And once you sort of, I suppose, tick off your one wood as a role, you can start exploring other areas. And it was probably more of a needs basis. We swung him forward, but we liked what we saw, and he's a really athletic guy. So he's been able to go in and pinch hit in the ruck. Probably wouldn't go much further than pinch hit, but it's another string to his bow. And the beauty about Griff is it's about whatever the team needs, and he's happy to put his hand up for any role.
Do you feel like you're mastering the wet a little bit more? I think there is forecast rain for Saturday night.
Oh, it's a work in progress. We understand that as a club. We're not shying away from the wet conditions, and we think when we play our best footy, we can handle wet weather conditions. So it's another good challenge for us this week.
And Jale, do you have an update on Skipper Nat 5? Is he looking like he's going to come back to the side next week?
Yeah, he's going to be available for selection next week. So we'll look at that next week, I suppose.
And Matthew Taverner out there today, not doing a huge amount, but he's kind of back out around the track. How's he looking? How's that calf going?
Yeah, he's made a pretty good progression, but he's definitely not going to play next week. But he might be on track for the first final.
You hit record number of memberships this week. What does that mean for the club?
It was great. We want as many supporters as we can. It's great news that they're getting behind us and appreciating the work we're putting in on the field and around the club, and they're backing us in by joining up. So it's great.
With that membership number, the celebration of David, and obviously pushing towards the finals, you're hoping the Eagles got 50,000 last week for Josh's last game. You're hoping to get a pretty big crowd this weekend. Yeah, by all reports, close to sellout. So we're expecting a big crowd, and I think our members appreciate the work Dave's put in across his career, and they want to get here and celebrate that as well.
And Tom Barris alluded to some soreness he's dealing with, impeded his ability to train. How much do you expect from him this week?
Oh, he's been our best player in definitely the second half of the year. So he's been exceptional for us on and off the field. So he's been the one pillar really that's been consistent for us with our availability. So he's had a light week, but he's good to go. But he's been really important for us. He's been dealing with a lot of inside 50s, and he's held up his end. He's been sensational for us.
But don't suppose that swinging up the other end is on the card?
I would have loved to have pushed him forward. I had plans to do it at certain stages, but when we lost Gov, it just made it a little bit more. And Yo as well, who was down back. So we're getting a bit light on for key defenders. So maybe something in the future we can look at.
Jackson Nelson back into the side. Last derby, he tagged Andy Brayshaw in the first half and did a pretty good job before he kind of dropped it. Is that something you might look at doing again potentially?
Possibly. I'm sure we're not going to have a match committee here. We are a bit light on for numbers, to be honest. We've probably got 15 or 16 injuries now that are season ending. So, different roles for different players is what we're looking at, and trying to expose to them to different situations, like a derby with the crowd, backs against the wall type of stuff for us this week, and just looking forward to see what the guys can bring.
And what you said to Bailey Williams about his future at the club?
Sorry?
What have you said to Bailey Williams about his future at the club? Have you dropped him this week?
Oh, I don't think you don't have to talk about when you drop a player. Is he 21, trying to play ruck? He's played 20 odd games this year. It's not really that. It's there's not many players in our Waffle Eagles this week. Probably got 2, maybe 3. But his true position is forward ruck. So I'd love him to go back and hit the scoreboard and have some presence as a forward, because his ruck craft's got, he's really come on in that space. But for his next progression is to have a bit more presence as a forward. So that sometimes happens at AFL level and sometimes it happens at Waffle level. So he's on the right path. Yeah, for a young player playing that position, you don't peak to late 20s really, and he's 21, 22. So we're not stressing too much about that.
There's only 2 games left, and on things like that, those conversations. There are players out there that you've kind of spoken to that this is your audition. You've got kind of 2 more weeks to maybe show us something to see if they will go around again with the club next year.
Yes and no. People know, players know. There's 2 extra waffle games, so we'll extend that out for as long as we can for the younger players who've played senior football as well, just to have a look at them. So yeah, it's been a challenging year in all aspects for us, and the players know where they're at.
And Izzy Winder had a huge game in the waffle last week.
Yeah.
Have you seen his development this year, and were you tempted to bring him in for the last 2 senior rounds?
Yeah, well, he still might get a run next week. So I think he played in midfield and had 30-odd possessions. And then it gave us a little bit, yeah. So he's been predominantly playing half forward, and we've thrown him on ball with good success. But I mean, one good game probably doesn't force you straight in. But if he can back it up, he's a chance for next week.
And Stimo, going into a derby as massive underdogs, what's that like for you guys? It's a pretty new position.
It's no good. No, we know where Freo are at. We know their path. We know what they've been doing, and it's not just been this year. It's the way that JL set it up, and they're in a good space, and they're fighting for top 4. And it's Mundy's last game, and it's a derby under Freo's watch. So there's a bit going against us, but it's a great opportunity to play in front of a big crowd. See what kind of resolve we have. I thought last week we didn't win last week, but we played the right way, and obviously we look for JK a fair bit. So hopefully we can look for Darling the same this week and see what we can do.
And JL, I guess you've been part of derbies as a player, and the script doesn't always follow who's favoured and whatnot. How wary are you of that this week heading into this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think internally you pick the strengths out of the opposition, and you understand what West Coast in particular this week have been trying to do since the bye, and try and make sure our players are really aware of the type of game we're going to get. And their pressure's been elite. Top 4 pressure team since the bye. Last week, a couple of things gone their way. They win probably. So we're aware of what we're coming up against. It's come to the end of the year, there can be a lot of distractions, and players can shift their mindset to outcomes, and weeks down the track we've got to make sure that our players are really present and respect the opposition and go about improving our footy.
Yeah, do you try to ban top 4 talk or anything like that? Do you try to discourage players talking about potential of other teams losing?
No, don't ban it. Just try and make our players aware of where their minds can go, and give them a fix on where to bring it back to. And where they need to bring their mind back to is what's going to make them play well this weekend, because it's the most important game of our season. So
a big game like this really helps going into the final series?
I don't think it hurts. But it's a derby. There's always a big crowd. So a lot of our players have played in a lot of these games. So we know what to expect, and go out there and play your role and do the basics well. All the stuff you should do every week.
Finals preparation that you can get, really?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Everyone's talking about finals. We haven't spoken about finals. We don't talk about this week being a prelude to the finals. We talk about this being the most important game of the year. So that's where our mindsets are, and that's what we need to go out and execute tomorrow.
You say you don't talk about finals specifically, but do you try and harness kind of the momentum you've had this year and how well you're playing and where the side's going, and just with the players making the most of kind of the opportunity you have at the top end of the ladder?
No, I don't really. No, I just talk about improving our footy, and every individual improving their footy. So, we want to be in as good a form as you can when finals come around, and by doing that is putting in the work during the week and making sure you play your best week in, week out. So our mindset's on this game, improving on last week, and that's where it sits.
We're not talking about finals. All right, we refuse to mention it.
Towards the bottom of the ladder, you've been looking for little wins all year and trying to find different motivations.
Yeah.
How much motivation can you get out of spoiling a bit of the Fremantle party with celebration of David, and then looking for a top 4 spot and needing these wins? And the Crows kind of spoiled Josh's party a little bit last week.
Yeah, I don't think probably don't look for that as motivation. It's more what you're trying to do. And Dale's right. It's boring as it sounds. You try and concentrate on the process, but there's not many games these days that do have the derby type of feel, so that'll bring out the best in both sides, I'm sure. But using it as a motivation, I think when I first got here, trying to pump up a derby, it's difficult because it lasts for 10 seconds as a player, and then you get on with the normal game. So, but the atmosphere, the crowd, the pride, all those sort of things, they're in the background. But you got to stick to your process really when you start playing.
Is that something that gets driven from the players group a little bit though? That kind of those derby motivations, like you obviously stick to process, game plan, all those things. Is that something from the playing group that they might amongst themselves?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah. Look, I'm sure last week, effort was guaranteed with Josh playing, so you didn't really have to prod them too much to bring that intensity. Although they kicked the first 3 goals, Adelaide, so maybe went a bit overs, but. I think when there's milestone games and games like that, and the bigger the games, probably the less you need to touch in on the motivation piece. So it's been a challenge for us to try and get the players to that level when the finals are out of reach by around 10 or 11 to get them in the space of the will to win and the competitive instinct. But it hasn't been impossible. So the little wins of what we've been chasing, we've achieved some, but we haven't achieved the wins. So that's something that we haven't been able to do. But there's been some progression since the bye.
Is there an emotional come down for you guys this week?
Maybe, yeah. I haven't seen it. It's probably a good thing we're going into a derby. Availability is our biggest issue. We're probably missing 12 of our best 22. So that's what can we do without those guys is what we've been working on, and can we be competitive and have a swing? And you never know, that type of attitude. So yeah, the message has been the right one this week. The guys have been up and about, and we'll see how we go.
Can I get your thoughts on the Patrick Cripps tribunal situation? Has it muddied the waters for you guys at all this week?
Jay, I've had head in the sand a little bit on that, so I know he got off yesterday. I didn't actually even see the incident, although someone mentioned it was a bit like Willie's juniors incident, but I didn't see it enough. I don't know, did you see it?
No. I haven't followed it.
Justin, just on the emotional piece, do you have to warn your players against getting too emotionally invested in possibly Mundy's last home game, possibly top 4, it's a derby? Is that something you've had to speak about?
No, not really. I haven't seen the need to speak about it. The message for the last few weeks has just been to improve our footy. And, like Simo said, process orientated. We got some improvement last week. Players are happy with that, but we want to see last week as something to build on. That's where our focus is laid. So, I haven't seen a need to think our players are going to go overs or, we just need to lean into each other and see if we can build on last week.
And Simo, with the wet weather, Fredo's got a bit of a smaller forward line. You've said that Barras is probably going to stay down back because he's playing well down there. Do you look to do anything a bit different with, Harry Edwards, Brett Bazzo, any of those players? Probably not. No, we're probably not in the position to do that. Those guys are young players trying to cut their teeth in their roles, so, they have to play a bit smaller on occasions. I think Bazzo is going to be a guy who can play on talls and smalls down the track. He's playing his 4th game, so he did play Colts footy as a forward though, so we might be able to swing him if we have to. But there'll be no big surprises with the younger players. We sort of let them settle.